Greetings of the day, dear scholars. Today we shall share between us a very interesting poem by the great nature poet William Wordsworth. The title of the poem is The Solitary Reaper. Let's see the text of the poem. Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary highland lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here or gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vale profound is overflowing with the sound. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travelers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. A voice so thrilling never was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old, unhappy, far-off things and battles long ago. Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today? Some natural sorrow, loss, or pain that has been and maybe again. Whatever the theme, the maiden sang, as if her song could have no ending. I saw her singing at her work and o'er the sickle bending. I listened, motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore long after it was heard no more. In this beautiful lyric, Wordsworth is enchanted by the song of the solitary reaper. This poem was written in November 1805 and published in 1807 in the collection of poems by William Wordsworth. This poem is exceptional because while most of Wordsworth's work is grounded closely on his own understandings, the poem, like most of Wordsworth's poetry, is distinguished by its straightforward use. He says, behold her, single in the field. Oh, behold her, look at her, single in the field. She is single, all alone in this vast field. Yon solitary highland lass, that solitary, lonely highland lass, the young woman of the highlands, reaping and singing by herself. She is reaping and singing all by herself. She is so engrossed in her work. Wordsworth requests the traveler, stop here or gently pass. Either stop here, do not disturb her, or if you have to pass, then please pass gently without disturbing her. Why? He says, this highland lass, she is alone. Alone she cuts and binds the grain. She is cutting and binding the grain all alone and sings a melancholy strain. And she is singing a melancholic song. Oh, listen for the wail profound. He entreats us. He entreats the traveler. He entreats the readers and the scholars. Oh, listen for the wail profound is overflowing with the sound. The whole valley is overflowing with her sound, and the sound is so charming. He says, no nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travelers in some shady haunt. No nightingale did ever chant. He says the melodious word nightingale, the melodious bird nightingale, even that bird never sang such welcome notes to weary bands of travelers, the soldiers who were returning from the battlefield. The nightingale used to sing for them. Even the song of nightingale was not as melodious as is the song of this highland lass. In some shady haunt among Arabian sands, what we find in the Arabian stories, even there, such a reference is not to be found. A voice so thrilling never was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird. The cuckoo bird is known for its melody. But he says, even the cuckoo's sound in springtime is not as melodious as the song of this lady. Breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. He says, even near the farthest Hebrides, the songs or the sounds heard were not as charming as the song of this lady. Now, William Wordsworth thinks about the content of her song. He asks, will no one tell me what she sings? Will no one tell me what she sings? Can anyone help me to comprehend what she is singing about? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old, unhappy, far off things. He says, perhaps the plaintive numbers, the sorrowful numbers, this sorrowful lay is referring to old, unhappy, far off things, some remote, painful experience, and battles long ago. Or maybe her song refers to some battle that had occurred long ago. Or is it some more humble, familiar matter of today? Well, not necessary that we think in terms of the past experiences, sorrowful experiences. It can even be a familiar matter of today. Some natural sorrow, loss or pain. Well, it can be some natural sorrow because human life is full of such encounters. We all go through natural sorrows. Maybe she has undergone some such pain and she is talking about some such pain in her poem, in her song. Loss or pain, because we all are subject to some sort of pain. Maybe she is also referring to some of her own pain that has been and may be again. some recurring pain that has been already and there are chances it may recur. Whatever the theme, the maiden sang. He says, well, whatever the theme, the maiden kept on singing as if her song could have no ending. She sang so engrossed, so lost in her song. He says, as if her song could have no ending, as if the song was never to come to an end. It was eternal. I saw her singing at her work and over the sickle bending. She was bending over the sickle, going on doing her work in the field of reaping the crop, and along with that she kept on singing. And over the sickle bending, I listened, motionless and still. Wordsworth says, I listened to her song, motionless and still. He emphatically says that I did not dare to cause any disturbance to the melody of this highland lass. And as I mounted up the hill, by and by I went towards the hill, but I left the place, not the song. Why? The music in my heart I bore. I carried that music along in my heart. Long after it was heard no more. A time came when the song was not to be heard, but since it was there in my heart, I carried it in my heart. That is why it kept on resounding, and I felt as if the lady is still singing for me. The important words to understand the poem are behold, look at, observe. Yawn, that, when we point out at something, that. Solitary, lonely. Highland lass, girl from the mountains. Melancholy, miserable or sad. Strain, verse or song. Vale, valley. Profound, deep and intense. Overflowing, brimming. Nightingale, a sweet singing bird. Chaunt, chant, song or sung. Weary bands, tired groups. Thrilling, electrifying. Cuckoo bird, a melodious bird. The quail. Hebrides, islands off the western coast of Scotland. Plaintive, mournful or nostalgic. Humble, unassuming, modest. Sickle, an instrument used for reaping the crop. Motionless, immobile, still. Mounted, climbed. Bow, carried. The language of this poem is very simple, and any reader who reads the poem for the first time can easily comprehend the idea of the poem and the sentiment of Wordsworth towards the melodious and engrossed singing of the girl of the mountains, who is the solitary reaper. Thank you.